y'all all merging together.
You know, we also go through
Which
Texas
is
jail
not,
standards.
it's not good, nobody enjoys that.
You know, Texas jail standards, they've gone through and reviewed the plans as well, and so they're the first to raise red flags if they see a conflict.
Matter of fact, they called us to Austin to visit with them after they looked at the plan. They saw a way that we could reduce the personnel by one if we did certain things. You know, personnel is a very expensive thing to deal with. But the library, where it's at, if you look at the plans back there and the overall plan, it's very much more secure than it is now. And it's it'd be very much more accessible. To me, it's and it's like, I don't know, I may have mentioned this earlier, mentioned so much, but that area out between the buildings there, I mentioned to the extension officer, Ryan, that we could put a fence, you know, between, and he said, I can take care of that with shrubbery or whatever, you know, but the thing is, it is a very secure situation. It's more secure than it's ever been. And with the way Mr. Thorn has it set up, people entering the courtroom, entering the court complex there, will be able to be wand, run through a metal detector, and check going into the court. We can't do that now, or we couldn't do it before. Because you get off the elevator, you're in the courtroom here, the way it is now. So, you know, buddy, you're saying something.
I do have a follow-up to that, though. Again, I agree with the court, but still, why are you still separating everything out? Why can't you not have everything just condensed there? And you're talking about using the old library for records, why not use the whole complex, just to take care of our judicial system?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Because you're gonna use the old library, if the old library moves over, you're gonna use the old library for what?
Okay, the county clerk is gonna move into the old library. She right now occupies a space in the back of the courthouse there. And with the oil fields moving like this, the land people are in there in masses, and the space is limited.
Well, but why not move it into the new complex?
Money? I mean,
How did,
that's, we got a courthouse, our 1884 historical courthouse, that we're gonna move the county operations back into.
So that's in closer proximity to where county
Yeah,
court uses the county clerk, district court uses the district clerk. So the district courtroom and the district clerk would be over at the new complex. But the county court would be here at the old county courthouse. So the county clerk, they have to bring over their court files to the judge when they hold court. So essentially you would have, if you kept it up in the new place, you'd have the county clerk driving over to the old courthouse.
And many of the defendants we have in county court are justice, they're the same ones that's in district court. So I mean, there's not one bunch anymore, but there'd be more security over there with the district.
But the practical functionality works better as well.
It's closer proximity.
Okay, one more back here, Charlie?
Yes. Addressing this gentleman's concern about having kids in the library next to the district court. Salary boards are good, but Mr. Wiley, you're wrong. They are not, could see the light of day. I have 26 and a half years in law enforcement, and it's been my experience that prisoners have gotten out of Sally ports, have gone and run wild in courthouses, breaking loose of their shackles, and I think it is a major concern having kids that close.
Sir, a few years back, we had an opportunity for a federal facility out here at the property that the county owns between the jail and the alternative center. And some of the concerns was, just like you said, can you guarantee that someone will not escape from this place? My answer was, no, I can't guarantee. They escape from Alcatraz, you know. There's people up and down this road out here every day that you have reason to be afraid. If you've served that amount of time in law enforcement, you understand what I'm talking about. And those kids there with law enforcement being secure in the courtroom, everybody's in danger in this country, across the world right now, anytime, anywhere you're at with the terrorists and things out there. So, I mean, there's no guarantee. I mean, no one can say that there's not a problem. But you, being in law enforcement, you know that Saddle Ford is the most secure way you can handle those prisoners.
Yes, it is. But what I'm saying is putting the district
It's not-
court
it's-
so
it's-
close to the.
It's not so close to it. In fact, there's a child advocacy center between the library and where the courthouse will be that Miss Audrey has worked on, little buildings that need to get in place in, in one of the buildings that we're using here. Which, by the way, our contribution to that is gonna be the building. The other 4 counties in the Judicial District will be putting the money to remodel it to make it work, so.
We have another question right here.
Kind of a question and a comment. Marvin, first, for Judge Quinney, I appreciate your service to the county, and I think I know you well enough, you're not looking to put your name in lights. You are conservative and wanting to do what's best for the county, and we're kind of all in this together. And this is at a opportune time, in a sense that all these things need to be addressed. I guess my question is, for the future, with everyone moving in, is there any way to prepare for this, for other projects that need to be coming along? I know it's kind of in the future and you're going out on your term.
Well,
You're interested in the county as well as all the other here, and all these things need to be done. And I
That's
don't
one of the
want
things
to get
that,
like a
that's one of the
slush
things that Angela was speaking of a while ago. The purchase of the school gave us a great deal of growth opportunity in the future. And that in the building area. Now, I want to kind of clear one thing up on the animal control deal. That's been an issue for many years. We're in a county that has both metropolitan area to the north and very rural to the south. People in the southern part, and I'm just boxing people, and that's not necessarily true, but it's basically, we've been out here, we know how to take care of that. We'll deal with our neighbors, animals, whatever we can't deal with, we'll take care of it. So, I mean, that's the mindset. In the subdivisions, it's, those animals are creating havoc on us, we need something done. Now, animal control is expensive. I've kicked that down the road, about as far as I can kick down the road to keep from addressing it. But when this came up, as to, on the, something that we're gonna look at in the future, at least a couple of the mayors called and said, we're interested in joining forces to deal with this. So ideally, if all 5 entities was to go together and put a facility in the central county where we own property out there in the, where the trash dump used to be. And there's a $5 licensing fee on animals, dogs, cats. That's the maximum the legislature they can put on them. We put a program together, computerize all these animals with their dates and tell the people how they'll get their dog back or their cat back in the event that they're located because they are identified. We've spoke with adopting agencies, or they spoke with us, they come to us and said, we would like to adopt these animals out. So ideally, you'd say, your agency has X amount of time to get these animals adopted out, and that would be the best solution. Along with spade and neuter programs and things but for anyone to, I would not ever stand up here and tell you that there'll never be a need for euthanization of an animal. Because many of these animals are vicious, they cannot be adopted out to other people. And many of them are dumped because they're terminal, they have heartworms or other things. So there's a need for that. And until the education gets there and the more responsible pet owners, we will still need to deal with that from that angle. But as we all grow, there'll be less and less need for that part of it. But I know that was a big issue, and like I said, that won't be addressed with these funds, but it can be addressed with all the entities working together.
I would just like to make a statement, and I need to make it personal. And I hope I represent everyone here. I felt your discourse between Jim was inappropriate. It felt like an attack. And then I felt like you were almost coming against us as citizens. We all, whether it's a councilman, whether it's ex-mayor Tahar, we all have a right, and you specifics, that's our right as a citizen. And we are losing that from Washington, little by little. So please, we respect what you're doing, please respect our ability to come and question you, and we appreciate your time, and Commissioner Wiley, but we're here because we care.
And I appreciate that, and I've made that point. As far as Mr. Miller's concerned, Mr. Miller has attacked me on a number of areas,
But we
and very
don't
personally.
we don't need to go there
Well,
here.
I understand, but I just wanted to point that out, that I was trying to, you see, I love to have citizen input because it's what makes things work. But when that input is self-serving and there to hinder the growth of our county, then it's another thing altogether. So that's the difference sometimes between citizen input and somebody just being on the attack to actually be in the newspaper.
Did you have one question?
And I guess I'm asking this more for clarification. I've been approached several times, and I don't think I've actually heard a response that clarifies this. I don't think that there have been any citizens that I've spoken with who disputed that they understand the needs the courthouse needs repair. We do need the courtrooms. We have real library needs, some of which could be addressed perhaps differently, but no one's disputing the need. I think the question is why the certificates of obligation and why the speediness of the funding at this point in time, rather than going out to a bond and saying, okay, these are the needs and this is how we want to do it. I think that's the question that I've heard most, is why this way and why not some other way?
Because the interest is all around low, and the quicker we can get it done, just take advantage of that, the better it will be.
Just to speak. We were well into the project and quite frankly planned to proceed. And we had conversations about what it is that, how we should go forward with this. And my feeling, along with three of the other members of Commissioner's Court, is that we were elected to make the hard decisions when the hard decisions needed to be made, that we needed to analyze, we needed to make certain that we were doing the right thing, and we needed to go forward. And whenever, I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for the judge or anyone else, and I might run again, so I have to speak from my heart. And so, when this came up, we're to the point to where we have plans. We've invested a significant amount of money to get these master plans developed. We know now what the problems are with the courthouse, what needs to be done. And we had a choice. We could either do it this November, or we had to do it way in the future. And that was the rush. That was the rush. The interest rates are as good here as they would be with a bond. And there was no need for a bond because there was no need to raise additional taxes outside of the normal stream. That's what the beauty of the whole thing was. It wasn't a matter, this is not like the federal government to where we have to make certain that we raise the debt limit so we can pay the interest on the money that we've already borrowed. This, to me, from the standpoint of being good stewards for the county, was being very good stewards for the county. We were solving past problems and solving some future problems. So from my standpoint, that's where we were. And in answer to your question earlier about, which essentially was how do we avoid doing something, having something like this happen again, looking into the future, is I think that as we go forward, I've talked about the fact that we're going to have 70 5,000 plus people in another 13 years. Actually, we're gonna be even closer to that, but is that we need to, from a planning standpoint, we need to look out at those dates. And we need to say, okay, based on where the county is right now, what are we gonna look like when we have this many citizens? What are our needs going to be? And we need to start looking in advance and saying, okay, by the time we get to, and I'm just throwing this out of the air, so it may not mean anything, but by the time we get to 76,000 citizens, we better have 2 courtrooms or 3 courtrooms. That's what's going to be required. And by the time we get to 100,000 citizens, here's what we're going to need here and what we need there. If we can get to the point where we can, we might grow more, we might grow less, but if you look in those directions, then you can see what your needs are in advance. The old courthouse threw us into this situation. You asked, sir, if you were going to pick one, which one would you do? And it's sort of like, I've got a gun and 1 bullet and I have to shoot somebody. Am I going to shoot my grandfather or am I going to shoot my child? I don't want to shoot either one of them. But the old courthouse, I love it. I told you about the cornerstone and my ties to that, and I hate to see that old courthouse go. But if I had to pick one, the JP for precinct 4 holds his court, and it's his court that district court is using. He holds his court in the break room over in the Justice Center. He told me the other day he was in the process of having to evict a family from their home. And he said, you know how difficult that is? I'm there and I'm having to evict the family from their home, and in the middle of that, somebody comes in and buys a bag of peanuts and a Coke. That's what our county's doing right now. I don't want to be represented that way. I don't want a Hollywood courthouse. I don't want a Hollywood this or that. I just want something that represents our citizens and represents them well. Somebody had, we were talking the other day about what's this courtroom going to be like, and I said, we're not building a BMW or a Mercedes or a Cadillac. What we're going to have is we're going to have a really good Ford or a Chevrolet, something that does the job and looks pretty good. And this is important. That's whether you vote for it or against it, I understand. And if I was sitting out there, and if you're one of the folks tonight and you don't know what it is you're going to do, I understand that. Because if I hadn't been coerced by my wife, I think she just wanted to get me out of the house, to do this, I'd be sitting out there trying to make my mind up as well. But when you're close to it, when you're close to the fire, you feel the heat and you see it. And this county can be something even more special than it is today. The growth up in the hill country is slowing down because it's expensive. And when you turn around and look for some place that's pretty, you don't go to Atascosa County. You come over here and look at this. We have an opportunity to be kind of a shining star over here. But we have to recognize that we want to be a shining star. We have to look again at where we were, who we are, never forget that, pull some of that forward with us as we become the best that we can be. And to me, this is a new cornerstone. Now, I'm not looking to have my name up in lights. Judge Quinney's already going to do that. But this is a new cornerstone. And again, when I came here to do this, I came here hoping that in some little way I could make a difference while I'm a county commissioner. And that's all I want to be. I'm not interested in being what he does. And I feel like this may be my opportunity. I don't know. Again, I'm not looking to leave a legacy. I'm going to get a motion. And I hate it when I do this. But my grandpa was a great man. He worked hard. He saved his money. And he made sure I got an education. his generation made sacrifices so our generation could have things. Our generation in general has kind of squandered that. We really have. I want to be a part of, you ought to want to be a part of being the generation that does things that makes it better from our county for those that follow. But if I'm sitting out there, I'm trying to make my mind up. You know, I see what's happening with the nation, with taxes there. I know what's happening from the standpoint, you know, I pay county taxes. You know, I got my county tax bill, you know, I see what's there. I'd like for it to be less. I sure don't, you know, I'm not wanting it to be more. But we have needs as we grow. So as you leave tonight, from my standpoint, just think about the sacrifices that were made that got us where we are, and think about what we have to do for those that follow us, like the other folks, like your grandfathers and grandmothers did. Because in another, 27 years, you know, we're gonna be up over 100,000 population. Some of you will still be here then to see. Some of us probably won't be here to see. But everything we do has a consequence. So just think about that when you go vote. And I'm gonna sit down, and I promise I'll shut up now, but
Just a couple of closing statements. I came here in 1968 with the Department of Safety. I worked this county until I retired in 95. Spent a couple of years with Davenport. I always tried to do whatever I did with justice and treat everybody the way I want to be treated. But when I encountered somebody with a DPS that was attacking me unfairly, I attacked back. I tried to be as fair and then settle back into a professional posture to finish the course. And when you look at our nation now, over the last several years, there's been a progress of pitting black against white, old against young, male against female, and so forth and so on. So I don't have any problem. I've got a problem with that myself. We're giving up so many years that we have grown in this nation in relationship with one another to have individuals come in and do a separating act to make, we all need to be one. We need to be working for the betterment of this county. If you've got something legitimate to say, to whatever, then say it. But if it's just a matter of being heard or whatever for no reason other than just to create obstacles, well, it costs money to create these obstacles. It costs money to hold elections. It costs money if the interest goes up. And I've been here as county judge since 1999. And I don't think anybody can find any situation that I haven't did everything I can to keep the taxes and the quality of the taxes as low and the quality of life as high as can be. So yes, I'm going to respond to somebody whenever I think they're being unfair. But other than that, I do appreciate all of you coming tonight. I appreciate all the input, and I would ask that you really look at don't do it for me or for Commissioner Wiley or anybody else, but do it for the county, do it for the future of our county. You'll never get it done any more economically inexpensive as it can be done now, and it addresses so many needs, and it puts us in a position for the future to grow and to grow in quality, and we need to grow together.
Do you have time for one more quick question? We've got a gentleman back here.
One more. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Appreciate you all being here tonight. Mr. Wiley, I appreciate your words there about, previous generations and what they've done for us, the fact that we're squandering, and I have a hard time thinking that anybody wouldn't think that we're in that kind of state. However, I don't think that fiscal responsibility ultimately is what gets us back into a context of blessing, if you will. It's understanding that there is an almighty God who controls the affairs of men.
Amen.
And submitting to him and being concerned about our name written in the book of life, as well as our families and those around us, and living toward that end. Having said that, I would say that I really have a couple of questions. One is, statement first. I really truly believe the scriptures speak to civil magistrates in carrying out justice, and that is essentially their role in our public spheres. To do that effectively and efficiently is no question something that we need to have as a county, as well as other places in the United States. Having said that, I think that to get there, to get to certain places where we want to be, by raising taxes or by going into debt, Scripture speaks of that as being a place of disfavor, not of favor, especially when we're looking at longer kinds of debt. There's just no question. Anybody who does a topical study of that understands that is a place of disfavor. So my first question is, what is it about this activity that we cannot handle out of reserves, maybe over a period of time? That's really essentially my first basic question. Why can't we handle that out of reserves? Secondly, why on the ballot are there just the two items? So when we go see the ballot to vote on it, my understanding is that there are just two items on the
Concerning the county,
ballot.
there's, how many properties?
Eight.
There's 8 state on there, but the other, it's just one county, at this time. And if it wasn't for the need, that wouldn't be on there. We wouldn't have an election for the county. For the state. As far as debt, I had another individual that said he just didn't believe government was doing debt. And believe me, I don't believe, if there's any way around it, that's not my choice. But as we mentioned earlier, the cost of building is skyrocketing all the time. The most economical way we can do it, and I asked that individual, I said, did you finance your house? He said, yes, but it was a mistake, but I paid it off. And I said, well, if I hadn't financed my house, I would still be renting. I've used finances to buy and sell and so forth, so on. So it's the debt in this case is, just makes sense, because we will always stay behind the 8 ball as far as getting the projects done with the cost increasing, and each one of them we need now. We need them now. Each project is there. There's an important element of the county that's served by each one, and we need those projects now. Yes.
I appreciate what you said. I totally disagree, because the Bible is full of people that had debt, and every 7 years it had to be forgiven. You can't ever get ahead in anything without going into debt, unless you want to have nothing. And especially for an entity such as our county, or our hospital, or our cities, there is no possible way that they could stay up with the amount of things that have to be met without going into debt. I want to thank you guys for coming up with a plan that is going to save us from going into debt deeper than what we would. Now, can you imagine? We've got a courthouse that we can't use. What is our alternative if this doesn't work? Build a new one for $20 million. And then we still don't have room for everything else. These guys have come up with a plan that gives us the biggest bang for our buck. And how anyone can't see that after listening to the logic and the forethought and the planning. Now, granted, all of us could pick apart any kind of a plan. Whoever presented it, we can all criticize and find something wrong with it. But the way this has been presented, if we don't vote for this, think about the alternative. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay,
Rick, do you have handy what is going to be said on the ballot that we'll be voting on?
well, I didn't delve into the 9 props. Yeah,
Marvin has it.
Council ballot.
Just can you read what it will say?
Yeah, it'll say the
It's
same thing as
very
saying.
misleading. You look, it looks like the instruction starts at half a page, and right above is where that's on the ballot.
Okay, Mike, the thing is then, with the animal shelter and the construction and improvement of county roads, I think through the explanation, we obviously understand, but I'm not sure that if there's any other way that the community could hear what we heard concerning that. Because, I mean, we're in an all-time low in society on distrust, and I don't think that distrust is that bad a thing, because there's so much deception going on, so it's very logical for somebody to fall into that pattern because of what is said here, but I completely understand.
Well, it's been used both ways. It's been used to say, and I explained to you why it's on there.
No, but Judge, could you have the election judges be told to tell every person to read this piece of paper before they vote, or at least tell them that.
I don't believe that. Go ahead.
If I may, but for those who are unaware of the ballot verbiage, the Wilson County News website is a wealth of information. If you've never been to it, www.wilsoncountynews.com has the complete verbiage just as it will appear on the ballot. And also, if you look over your right shoulder, you'll see a video camera that has been recording this evening's events. We will be uploading that to our website at the earliest possible convenience for everyone to get informed. So be sure to tell your friends who couldn't attend tonight to arm themselves with information. Thank you.
I'm wondering if we could maybe get a written thing to put into the paper. Not everybody might go to the video.
It has been advertised twice.
I mean, about the explanation of the animal shelter and construction of county roads, improvement of county roads, where that was just, to me, it was a mistake, and we're looking back now, where it should have been possibly, if there are funds after these 3 projects, then these are the 2 things we would like to address. Because right now, it looks like it's all lumped in together.
And like I said, we put out statements, you know, like I said, I have the emails that went back and forth.
Yeah, I completely understand what
Trying
happened.
to move it. And you're right, it's a mistake, and as I said, to start with, I didn't put it in there, but I had the opportunity to remove it. And my gut feeling said, I need to remove this, but I did not.
The one question I would have is, I still don't understand why we put everything else on the walls, because I judged for a while, election judges, for precinct. And I don't see why it is not. It would be 16 pieces of paper that you would have to print. And I think we're all in violent agreement with this.
We may contact, our county attorney to contact the Secretary of State.
They could do that,
and
just
see
say,
if they
if you sign in to vote, just say, please take a look, that there's 2 things on the ballot that you need to understand. Boom, read this 1 paragraph and go vote.
If we can get approval from Secretary of State.
That would be, I think we're all in violent agreement, that'd be great.
And perhaps the paper will, we have 1 run before we will make that point.
And I appreciate the work you guys have done. I've been in business a little bit and have done quoting and stuff. It's very difficult to get somebody to quote. If somebody wants a quote and they want to be bound by it, and they don't want to go with $1 over, well then you got to go for worst case scenario, which is very difficult to do because it just elevates the price. But so I don't think that's the approach that you took when you were putting things together, and at the same time, you don't want to be hit with a bunch of extra costs also. It's very difficult work, so I appreciate the effort and what
We appreciate your professional input on
Okay, guys, it is getting,
I just want to make one statement.
One statement. Go ahead.
That I just want to appreciate what county commissioners have done and everything. And my husband has been attending, Ralphie and I has been attending county commissioners court since 1996 and always comes home and says that he has never seen them do anything invalid, and they've looked at everything interest rate, and this is the best time to get it all done.
Okay, so, thank y'all for coming out, and I'm sure that we have to get out of here, but I'm not saying you gotta go to bed, but if you still have questions.
I thought it was for y'all.
In call anytime, that's Marvin's.
Okay, I'll be over there and put a sign in your yard.
Dawn, the secretary, is would be happy to take care of your children. She does the court coordinating, and thanks for being here. She does the court coordinating. If you'd like to come on a court day and see firsthand what goes on, call her. Okay, 393-7333. This is our phone number and the cell number. We are an open book, as these people. They know that, they know that.
I want you to say, I'm not talking.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I get it. Sometimes you can only take